and welcome to The Problem with Adam Bloom. I'm in a particularly good mood today because I've just received an email from a pen pal in Atlanta called Adam Bloom, who first got in touch with me soon after doing a search on his name. After exchanging a few emails, he asked me if I could send him a sample of my work, so I burned him the first 2 series of this show onto CD and posted them to him. Now, I should point out that I've got very bad handwriting and subsequently tend to write in block capitals. Anyway, here's what he wrote.
Adam, oh my gosh, listen to this. So I'm sitting at home watching TV and my wife says, Adam, did you see these CDs someone sent you in an unmarked package? What the hell is this? I open the package and say to her, oh my God, what is this? Someone insanely scribbled on them. It says The Problem with Adam Bloom. I've got a stalker. Someone has sent me a CD of something bad I've done. What the hell is this? She then says, what? Are you kidding? I'm taking it to the police. This is crazy scary, Adam. They know where we live. We're moving. So I'm sitting there thinking, what if someone has caught me doing something bad? But I haven't done anything bad. The worst thing I've done in the last few years is go to a strip club with my friend Jimmy from high school. So what could this be? Then I think, wait, there's a second series. Surely I haven't done anything that could fill 2 series. Then it hits me. This is the other Adam Bloom's radio show. Okay, cool.
Isn't that a great story? The thing is, I can't help wishing he'd thrown it away without listening to it and then moved house, because eventually he'd give me his new address, I'd record this series, send him a CD, and it would start all over again. For me, the beautiful thing about that email was that when he went through the last few years of his life, he could only come up with one thing on his conscience. Unless, of course, the reason he switched on his computer was to send this.
Jimmy, oh my gosh, listen to this. Remember that night I got those 2 strippers pregnant and left without paying my bill?
However, assuming that didn't happen, my point is that it pays to be honest. And that's exactly what this week's episode is about. Now, there are obviously several ways of being honest. I've often been criticised for being too honest when it comes to talking to people, which frustrates me because I believe that if you always speak your mind, people know where they stand with you. Would you agree with that? You slightly tepid audience who only came out because you got free tickets? I suppose there are times where it's not good to be too honest. I would never have started the show by saying, good evening and welcome to The Problem with Adam Bloom. I'm in a particularly bad mood today because the BBC have just rejected my request for an 8% pay rise. Anyway, here's a half-funny email I received about 6 months ago. Now, although I hate lying, at some point during this show, I'm going to tell one complete lie, and then at the end of the show, I'll announce what it was. Unless, of course, that was it. A problem I found with people who lie a lot is they start to believe their own lies.
Well, the only reason I steal from work is to get back at my boss for not giving me a Christmas bonus.
And when did you start doing this?
October.
Parents often lie to themselves about their children's intelligence. I was on a packed train the other day, and there's this boy with his mum, and he was reciting the alphabet to her, and he couldn't quite do it. And everyone on the train was listening in, but pretending they weren't listening in, but they were willing him on silently. And the mum picked up on this. She was beaming with pride. He was about 14, just a bit thick. No, he was a tiny little thing. 14-year-old thick dwarf. I think the time we lie to ourselves the most is just after we've been lied to.
Jeremy, what time do you call this?
Sorry, I had to stay late at the office.
But I just rang your office and they said that you left 3 hours ago.
So he's been caught lying, but because no one wants to believe their partner's a liar, she then tells herself an even bigger lie to allow his lie to make sense.
Well, I suppose it's possible that I dialed the wrong number and there just happened to be someone who worked at that company called Jeremy Baxter Hamilton.
And then, once she's convinced herself that what she just said is feasible, she locks it away somewhere in the back of her head.
Yeah, that's possible.
And because she was so busy doing all that, she completely forgot how the phone conversation actually went.
Good afternoon. Jeremy's desk.
Oh, hi, is he around?
Oh, sorry, Jackie. He left about 3 hours ago. With his cousin.
Okay, thanks, bye. He hasn't got a cousin.
Sometimes we lie to avoid hurting other people.
Oh, what have you just stabbed me with?
A cucumber.
A few months into a new relationship, there's one question that always seems to be asked just after an intimate moment.
That was wonderful. So how many partners have you had?
Right, I can't tell the truth because you feel insecure, so I better halve it. But what if that's still more than she's had? Oh, God, better halve it again.
Well?
2.5.
I think the only way to cope with this kind of question is to respond with even more honesty.
That was wonderful. So, how many partners have you had?
I wish you'd asked me that 2 minutes ago. I could have reeled them off as they were popping into my head.
I've got to tell you this, when I was putting that list of lies together, I was on a packed train and I was doing it on my notepad, and it suddenly occurred to me, you know sometimes people look over your shoulder to see what you're writing? If anyone did that, all they'd have seen was steel cucumber, new girlfriend, dwarf. In really messy block capitals. Now this next one isn't technically lying, but I've got really bad social skills, and whenever I meet people and start to feel misunderstood, I suddenly panic and find myself behaving in the exact way that I think that person expects me to behave. I'll give you an example. I recently got into a taxi at Highbury Corner on a Saturday night, and this is exactly what happened.
Where to, Gov?
Heathrow Airport, please.
So, have you just been to the game?
What game?
The Arsenal?
Oh. Now, at that moment, I already started to panic, because I was worried he'd already decided I was a bit thick. I can remember thinking, quick, bond with him over football. But as I went to open my mouth, I felt myself suddenly becoming more middle class, which was probably because that's how I expected him to expect me to speak, but also I think I was trying to sabotage any chance I had of redeeming myself. Anyway, I knew the correct thing to say was, what team do you support? Or even, given that we were already talking about football, who do you support? But it somehow ended up coming out as, what team do you like? It was agonising. And yet it somehow even managed to get worse.
Well, the Arsenal.
Even the back of his head seemed to be cringing. By that point, I knew there was nothing I could have done or said to gain his respect, other than maybe producing a football out of nowhere and spending the rest of the journey with it balanced on my nose whilst reeling off street names in London that rhyme with famous right-wing leaders. And I'm not suggesting all cab drivers are bigoted, because that in itself would be being bigoted, and personally I hate all bigots, without exception. However, just in case he was, it's a good job he hadn't picked me up outside the BNP headquarters.
Where to, Gov?
Heathrow Airport, please.
So, have you just been to the meeting?
What meeting?
The BNP.
Oh. What race do you like? We eventually got chatting and got onto the subject of homelessness. He started criticising homeless people, every narrow-minded cliche you can think of. Things like...
They all smell.
And...
They're stealing our jobs.
And of course...
Their dogs' leads rarely meet health and safety standards.
Anyway, we got to Heathrow Airport and my fare was £37.50. I gave him the exact money. I was going to give him £40 and say keep the change, but I thought he'll only spend it on petrol. Or diesel, whatever it is those people use. But what I wished I'd done was rang up his cab company and requested him specifically as my driver to collect me on the way home, and told them I'm from a charity company called Hungry and Homeless, just so I could have the pleasure of getting off the plane and seeing him waiting for me with a bit of cardboard with my company name written across it. My social skills have actually got worse since becoming a comedian, because before, at least I could make the odd witty remark to help me get by, whereas now I can't win. If I say something funny, I get...
All right, calm down. You're not on stage now.
And if I say something that's not funny, I get...
Ha! Call yourself a comedian?
So now I just try and go through life being mildly amusing. And as you can see, it seems to be working for me. I was at a dinner party the other day and I recognised this bloke who had been a heckler at one of my previous shows. And I started making fun of him. And he stood up and went, all right, you're not on stage now. So I threw a tomato at him. But getting back to my point, one of the biggest incentives for lying is obviously to make money. My girlfriend and I almost bought a flat earlier this year, but pulled out as a direct result of being misinformed by the estate agent. Soon after our offer was accepted, we found out that the service charges were much higher than we'd been told, and the lease was over 50 years shorter, which would have cost £10,000 to extend. Apart from the actual price, the only number he'd got right was the one on the front door. I could just about accept these errors if every now and again they worked out in my favour. Hello?
Hi, this is Damien from Liar and Liar Properties. I'm afraid there's been a bit of a mix-up. The tattooist must have mistaken one of the 6s for a 0 and